can do. Jesus is done with me. He came down to me as I was a fisherman on the side of the Sea of Galilee and said, "Come, follow me, I'll make you fishers of men." And I blew it. I blew it so bad, there's no way we can go on from here. There's no way Jesus could love me. No way He could accept me. No way He could use me. I am finished. I am no good. So I'm just going to have to go back. It's to the only thing that I know. I'm going to go fishing. And the other guy said, "Okay, we got some poles, we got some bait, we'll go with you." All right, they use nets, but not the same thing. So it says they went out, got into the boat, but that night caught nothing. They fished at night, remember. They would have lanterns on the boats, and that would attract the fish to come up, and then they would put nets between the boats, and they would, cinch them up, and they would catch a bunch of fish that way. But they caught nothing. Just as the day was breaking, Jesus stood on the shore. Yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. As we see here, Jesus actually started a little fire, cooked a little breakfast. I got to wonder, you ever wonder where He got the fish and the bread? Didn't run down to Fred Meyer, I promise you that. It could have been anything. I just wonder about these things. Okay, maybe I'm strange. But I wonder if He just said, "breakfast." And then, poof, there was a fire and fish perfectly cooked and bread, Or He could have, He could have brought it with Him. Or He could have said, "How about you?" And bing, the fish jumps up. Anyway. The creation cooperated so well with Jesus. What's our problem? I'm not really sure. But so, they caught nothing, and Jesus is standing on the shore, but they didn't know it was Jesus. And He said to them, "Children," I like that, "hey kids, caught any fish?" Ooh, that's the last thing you want to say to a fisherman, especially if they don't have anything. The smoldering looks that you get. They answered, "No." And He said to them, "Cast the net on the right side of the boat. I think you'll find some over there." Jesus had been telling the schools of fish, guys, boats, lanterns, no, stay over here. But when I tell you, just come right over here, So He's like orchestrating this thing, and the fish come over there, and they cast it, and they weren't able to haul it in because of the quantity of fish. This is the moment where Peter realizes, oh, I've seen this happen before. And he's looking to the guy on the shore and realizes only Jesus can do this stuff. So here's where we begin to see the key. What does Peter do? Does he just sit down in the boat, turn his head away, and say, "I can't do this. I'm too bad"? No, it says that the disciple whom Jesus loved therefore said to Peter, "It's the Lord." And when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put out on his outer garment, for he was stripped for work, and threw himself into the sea. I like that. These guys are going, "Hey, we can't get this net in. The boats are sinking." And John says, "Hey, it's Jesus." Peter goes, sticks his coat on, and whoo, splash right into the water, and he just swims for shore. Forget the fish, forget the guys, forget the nets and the boats. There's the Lord. I'm going to Him. That's key number one. What did Judas do? When Judas changed his mind, when Judas wanted to roll back time, he didn't want to do what he had done, did Judas try to find Jesus? Judas went the other way. Judas ran away and hanged himself. Peter, when given the opportunity, when the Lord was there, Peter went headlong, headfirst into Jesus. And then in verse 9, when they got out on land, they saw a charcoal fire in place with fish laid out on it and bread. And Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you've just caught." And so Peter goes back to the boat, brings some of the fish, 153. I like how they counted the number of fish that they caught. And although there were so many, the net was not torn. I love that. Anyway, stop me. I won't go there. It's great stuff here. When Jesus brings in a catch, they all get in. Anyway, so Jesus said, "Come and have breakfast." And I like that. John has this kind of counterpoint. Peter says, "I'm going fishing." Jesus says, "Let's have some breakfast together." And none of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" Because they knew it was the Lord, which shows us that Jesus didn't necessarily look exactly the same as he had when he was before the crucifixion. But Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and so with the fish, and this was the third time. And when they had finished, verse 15, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John," and you got to wonder if Peter's thinking, here it comes. I deserve it. I'm going to take it. But where else am I supposed to go? Jesus is the only way for me. But Jesus says, Simon, notice he uses his earthly name, not Peter. He uses Simon Pebble. Do you love me more than these? And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." So this was key number 2. He ran to Jesus. Jesus said, "Peter, do we have a relationship together? Do you love me? Do you cling to me? Do you trust me?" And Peter says, "Yeah, I do." He reaffirmed his commitment. And so basically Peter says to him, "Well, okay. If you love me, I've taken care of it. Now get out and do what I've called you to do. I told you you'd be a fisher of men. You can't go back to the old life anymore. The old has passed away. Behold, all things are becoming new. Because of that relationship you have with me, Peter, you're new too. So now, go out and do what I have called you to do." And Peter is restored. The difference is that Judas ran away from God. He removed himself from relationship and refused to bow. In fact, he took the ultimate selfish step and spat in the face of God, who was the giver of his life. Peter ran towards Jesus, reaffirmed his love and his commitment to follow. So what happens when we fail God? And believe me, you will. You might have already done it today. You'll certainly do it before the day is out. Sometimes those failures are small things, thoughts you shouldn't think, words you shouldn't say. Sometimes they're big things, but we will all fail. So instead of cowering, instead of avoiding God's glance, do what Peter did. Run to him. Cop to what you've done. Weep if you have to. Talk to him about it. You will find that he will give you his love, not the back of his hand. He will restore you, not destroy you. So here's the deal. We're talking about the death of our pride. Our pride says, like Peter, "I can do it, I'm Super Peter." Maybe not in that voice. Truth of the matter is, we're more like the weak Peter than the strong Peter. Will we, like Judas, be so prideful that we will not admit to our failure and not let Jesus bear our failure on the cross? Because see, he was humiliated. The religious leaders wanted him to go to Jesus to go to the cross because they knew that a death on the cross brought a curse from God. And it did. Jesus, who knew no sin, became sin for us. He bore all those failures on himself. But you have to let him do that. You have to admit that you have failed and you will continue to fail, and let Jesus bear not only the penalty but the shame and the guilt, and put to death the pride that keeps you from coming to him and admitting what you've done. So let's put that out, and you can find the restoration that you need if you will run to Jesus, especially in times of failure. Let's pray. Father, it's a hard thing for us to admit that we failed in small and in large ways, because even when we belong to you, we like to think that we're pretty good. We're pretty bulletproof. We pretty much got our act together, and in reality, we are so much more evil than we would ever care to admit. And yet you bore our weaknesses. You bore our shame. You bore our guilt.